Human Radio.
I've realised that I usually start the show either way too energetic and enthusiastic, or it's way too low and actually saying what a dark and dingy night it is. I'm trying to find an ambient in between, Andy. It's not an easy thing to find. So I'm going to, is it about there? Is it about there? Is that about it?
Well, it is now, but I prefer it where you wildly fluctuate between really excited and then really I like the rise and fall of that.
Well, what I'll try and do is do that throughout the whole night then, and that might become quite irritating as the night goes on. But let's just find out, shall we? I think you'll find it will be. You've got a fantastic
I'm annoyed already.
Well, I've annoyed myself. The children have left the building. That's a fantastic new haircut you got there, Andy, as well. It's magnificent.
Yeah, thank you. £9, Barber John Hall.
Cheap as you've gone top notch there. I know seldom pay more than £4 with a pound tip included.
Well, I always say to him, I'll keep the pound for a pint.
Well,
and I think it's funny, but I don't think he does because they're about £5.50.
Unless you get a little. Yes. Well, how lovely to see you, Andy. You're looking magnificent as always.
Thank
a little
you.
rare sunshine that you are bringing into all of our lives. And these dark evenings, I'm not going to get back on the dark side again, Andy. I'm not going to start bringing it back down. I'm going to keep that high level. I'm going to keep it at the high level tonight, I think. And we also have a very, very special second Andy tonight, don't we?
We do. Yeah, it's the two Andys. We've got Andy Darrant.
Hello.
AKA. Hello, Andy. You all right?
Yeah, good.
Andy, also known as Jitterbug Boy, fantastic member of the Only Human group, brought a tune. He's going to be doing our Gear Geek. What are we doing on Gear Geek?
The Novation Remote SL Mark III.
Okay.
Yeah,
trips off the tongue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all scratching our heads on that
Snappy
one.
that is.
Looking forward to seeing what that is. We did ask Andy what that was before. He said, "Well, you'll find out later." Which is a fair point.
Well, it's
a fair point.
Suspense. I do feel like I'm stepping behind the wizard's curtain here. I mean, listen to this so much.
What have you found behind the wizard's curtain
now as well?
Well, given what we were talking about earlier, nothing too drastic, I hope.
That's what's behind the wizard's curtain.
Yeah. I've got to say, but it's very exciting to have you here, Andy. Anyway, both Andys, a double Andy tonight, which is very, very exciing. But we have also. Go on.
Well, I just wanted to say, when you're an Andy, it does happen quite a lot.
It does.
There's always another Andy, less than sort of 10 metres away from you at any point in your life.
I don't know if it's a name that's dying out. Some names, I believe, are dying out that were popular in our day. Like, there's no Ians anymore, apparently.
Apparently, there's no Garys as well.
We don't come across many Hitlers and. You don't. It's a fact. I'm just saying a fact, Andy. I'm not saying anything controversial. It's a fact.
No, that wouldn't. No, you would never do that.
No, and I probably ought to cut that short there, really. So anyway, we do have an amazing night of entertainment up tonight.
We do.
Moving away from that very difficult area. You have, again, as always, Andy, selected some superb tunes from some superb artists from around all over the place. Do you want to give us a little tidbit of what's coming up?
Apart from chatting with you fortnightly, Jules, this is my favourite bit of the show. It's my favourite, I love getting the tunes and digging them out. And, how would we describe tonight? Andy, how could you put it into a description? You've heard them all.
Somewhat fantastic. It's quite varied.
Yeah.
It's quite varied tonight, I think. It's very good. Good mix of things.
Yeah. I mean, there's some very sort of mysterious, dark things in there. There's some pounding techno. We've got a bit of acid. I don't know. We've got an amazing tune to start off with, though. I've been plugging this for weeks, months even.
Has anybody else brought any biscuits? Have you not got any?
No. Snackless.
I can't even pass them to you. So, I'll enjoy mine anyway. And basically, what I've done is, we've done this for 3 weeks in a row now, Andy.
You have.
Well, I have. I didn't start it, but we've just got to complete it now, haven't we? So it was confectionery the first week. It was crisps the second week. So I've got my biscuits here for this week, and this week it's biscuits. So yeah, we do have me sadly coming up first. There has to be a low point of the night to bring us up to try and peek onto the other songs.
We've always said though, we start off with something that gives the show some momentum, and then we end up with the same momentum, and we're doing the same this week. Yours gives it a right good shove in the right direction, so it's a great tune.
Well,
this does.
Well, thank you. Well, Andy, go on. Our special guest. I'm going to pass this over to you because I hate talking about my own stuff. So I'll let you just. I'm just putting custard cream in there. That's what I'm going to say.
I've written down house music for the soul.
Ooh.
Nice.
Now I'll take that.
It makes me want to sort of put my arms in the air and mildly sort of pump them, just gently give them a bit of a pump in the air. It definitely makes me do that every time I listen to it. I really like it.
Like you almost don't care.
Yeah, like I almost don't care, but I'm just getting there. It's good. I really like it. I like the sort of chattering alien sounds going on in it. I like that. I think it's a good arrangement. It's top stuff.
Oh well, thank you.
I've been trying to get him to put this on the show for ages. He's sidestepped it at every opportunity, but we finally got the mighty CitizenFLY Fez tune on tonight.
Well, I hope it lives up to expectations. As I say, I put it down as a custard cream, as a bit of a sort of, I'll eat it. It's all right. Don't mind it. That'll do. Go for it. You
lick the middle out.
Yeah, and I might regret it later because I'll just skip straight past that, Andy. And I might regret it later because it gives me a little bit of indigestion. But everybody likes a bit of antacid here and there, and there isn't any acid in there. There is acid in something else later on tonight. I should have used that later on with a different song, which had acid in it, and then used the antacid line in that. That would have been much more.
But
you can edit it out and come back later. And
we're not doing that.
No,
we're not doing that.
No, Andy just
make him look good.
He wouldn't do that.
No chance.
I'll tell you what. Should we get it cracking and get it on, and let's pump those arms in the air. But remember, pump mildly. Let's just not get over enthusiastic about this. Keep calm. It's coming up. This is Fez, CitizenFLY.
Only Human Radio.
Well, that was me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you did a little bit of air pumping there and whatever
I
you
loved
did.
it.
And maybe had a
Cracking.
custard cream.
Yeah, it's good. Good. Really good.
Excellent stuff. Well, now we've got an Only Human Radio classic. It's Edgey.
Yes. It's called The Dark. He's turned up the tempo. He's usually around 108, 110 BPM. Don't know what BPM this is, but it is noticeably faster for Edgey. Did I mention that me and Edgey are doing a cassette together?
You might have mentioned it in probably 2, maybe 3 previous shows, and you might have put about
But
4 links out.
Because this is another one from the cassette that I don't know if I've mentioned it or not. But
Well, no, it's been all over Facebook, YouTube, absolutely, bloody everywhere. You can't get away from your cassette now.
I know. I know.
And we're all looking forward to it, Andy. Very much so, obviously.
All you need to do is buy a cassette player, and then you're laughing. You'll be able to listen to it then.
Rare breed nowadays.
How did you find this, Andy?
I love this. It took me back in time, really, to when I was at college. It really took me into that early 90s time, which I think is a good thing. It was when I was kind of discovering dance music, and it sort of made me feel like that, which was great. I love the sample in it. I love the squelchy bass type sound. I'm always a bit scared of using a squelchy bass. I don't know what to do with it, but this is what you should do with it, I think.
Well, he's got a proper bit of 303 going in there. And this is where I should have put the antacid line in. Obviously, that's...
No, because it sounds like you're anti-acid then, and you want to dampen it down. You don't want that.
That is true. Do you know what I also wrote down for this?
Go on.
And I don't think Ian's going to appreciate this, but I'm going to say it anyway. But panpipes electrified. Not electrified, electrified. Now, you need to listen to the song as you're going through to kind of appreciate that. But there is a bit in there.
Stereo Lab electrified, isn't that a Stereo Lab thing?
It could be.
Electrified.
It could be.
Ectoplasm or something.
I think it is.
I think there is electrified panpipes in there at some point. I don't know how he's done it. Maybe he was on the panpipes himself. I don't know.
I really like the breakdown as well in the middle. I love it where it breaks down. I think that's fantastic, and then builds up.
Yeah.
The sample he uses in it is great. I envy being able to find samples like that.
He does use a lot of vocal samples, and they really sort of. He always matches them quite nicely with the mood of his music, and this is no exception.
Yeah,
very nicely chosen bit of, atmospheric talk. Chat,
Either Andy, if you're going to put a biscuit to this.
I don't know biscuit prep.
Well, biscuits are always best.
Okay, what's a late night biscuit?
Immediately.
Yeah, dark biscuit. It might. I don't want to say dark chocolate digestive, but I think I might be going there.
I could go there actually. Yeah.
Dipped into a strong cup of coffee.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've gone Jaffa cake, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm right in between the two things. Is it a biscuit? Is it a cake? I can't work out if this is a dance track or is something I want to just sit down and relax to. This is right in between the two. It's got me fully mixed up, but it's still got that dark chocolate outside. That's where
That's
I
good,
was.
isn't it? That.
I don't know.
I think I'll stick with the
not.
chocolate digestive.
Yeah, don't praise him. You're
Yeah.
on a rocky road there.
Just encourage him. Don't encourage him. No.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what. Shall we have a listen to Edgey's electrified panpipes? He's going to hate me for that. This is an amazing song, though. This is Edgey the Dark.
I am afraid of the dark.
the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I stay awake until the first glimmer of sun hits the horizon. I am afraid of the dark. No one to talk to, only my own thoughts to live with. My mind going to dark places. I am afraid of the dark. 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 I am afraid of the dark.
Edgey, The Dark. Well, that was amazing. I forgot to mention before as well, I'd written down on that thumping kick on that. I mean, absolutely panel-beating kick that came out of that thing there.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. And I know it
It's
was
a
a little
very
bit...
nice. It's a very nice sounding kick, isn't it? It's lovely. He's got
It's
that
beautiful.
just right.
I mean, I don't know, I was mumbling about the panpipes, but that was an astonishing piece of music as well. It really was. And the 303s got in there. And it was just the subtlety between it. But is it a dance tune? Is it something a little bit more laid back? And the whole thing kind of mixes between the two with that thumping kick in there, which is just fantastic. As always, a classic piece of music from Edgey. Well, talking about classic pieces of music, we've got another Only Human Stalwart coming up. Andy, I'll let you introduce this and I'll stop mumbling on.
Well,
Dunno.
tonight, we've got Andy Darrant, aka Jitterbug Boy. We're going to be having a listen to his tune, having a listen to the journey he went on with it, and we're going to be chatting about inviting Andy into Geek Corner to talk about the Novation. Is this the tune that you've been tearing your hair out over?
It
over the
is,
last few
yeah.
days? Yeah.
I think because I started it with a new bit of kit, so it's the first thing I've done with this new bit of kit, so it's taken a long time. I take a long time anyway, I take ages to make things. But this took a particularly long amount of time.
Is this the Gear Geek piece of kit that you've used inside
indeed.
this?
So
Right.
it's kind of the first thing I'd used with that. So
Yeah.
it took a long time. And I eventually got there, and then I had to, do the mixing and the mastering and all that sort of crap. And honestly, I'm no good at that. I don't really get that yet. I'm still learning, and it just made Ableton was going wrong, and it was just horrible. And I just got fed up of listening to it, and yeah, so it's been a bit love-hate really. The joy of it, joy's gone out of it.
Well, the thing is, right, I hadn't heard it until you made a few comments about, oh, this is a pain, this is doing me head in. So I wasn't sure what to expect, and then I heard, because I thought it was going to be a messy, I don't know what I was expecting. It's absolutely ace. I absolutely love it. So I don't know. I think to be honest with you, the journey that you've been on to create this was definitely worth it. It's an awesome piece of music.
That's very kind.
No. Can I ask you one question?
You go
one
first.
question.
Go on.
Can I ask you one question about? I'm going to ask you more, but this is my first question. Are you using an Electron on there?
There's my Electron model samples does the beats, yeah.
Right. What is that lovely kind of early, sort of rusty sounding pad at the start? I thought that's an Electron.
That was my question.
That's off my Tetra.
Is it?
Right. Okay.
And that actually is the first sound I've ever designed and made myself on the Tetra. It was inspired by listening to Dave Julian on here the other week, because he's got a Prophet with the Tetra's like half a Prophet in a little box, I think. But I've never had the new bit of kit's given me the ability to control it more. So I never had that before.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, because I used to have the little box, the Dave Smith Mofo.
The Mofo, yeah.
Which was a beautiful piece of kit.
It's like a 4-voice Mofo.
Yeah, exactly. And I always wanted the Tetra, but the trouble I had with the Mofo was that it was almost impossible to sequence. It was just an absolute nightmare. And then you download the bit of software, it just crashes and just does nothing. And then I always wanted the Tetra, but I always thought it was just going to be like a 4 times the nightmare, because it's 4 voices of the Mofo. So how
I've
have
had
you
it for a long
managed to
time.
sequence
I've had it for years, and I've just been used the presets. The presets on it are lovely, but I've been presets and then tweaking the filter a bit, But this is suddenly now it's opened up to me. It's great.
Oh, I tell you what, I'm interrupting Andy's Geek corner here. So
we haven't even got into Geek yet.
I'm desperate to ask those questions. I won't ask anymore, because I actually thought it might have been a DeepMind 12 at the beginning there, because it had that kind of creamy, beautiful, big sound that you get from a DeepMind 12. But it's interesting to know.
The thing is, though, and we're talking about the tune, but we're only sort of 10 seconds into this already.
Well, the whole song comes from that sound. That's where it started. It started by making that sound, and then everything else fell off that.
Right. Do you know, is this also the tune where you sort of reached out on the group and said, I think this is going somewhere, do you think it should have vocals? Right.
You suggested piano. I put some piano in it.
That was my next question. So that piano, which is amazing, so is that a sample? Have you played that piano in? Is that a synthesizer? Is that a real piano? How have you done that?
So I couldn't find a decent piano on any of my limited bits of kit, so I played one. I've got one out of Ableton on a plugin when I put it into master, and I played it over the top.
It sounds amazing.
Nice.
It really,
I did do a little bit of post editing to edit out mistakes, but it's essentially played.
It does sound astonishing.
Yeah. There was a moment where I could imagine someone singing over the top of that, because that was one of the questions you asked. And because I've listened to it a few times on my commute into work, and I could hear a voice. I could hear a vocal line going over the top of that. And it was at some points I could hear maybe Ian Curtis singing over the top of it, which I'm not sure is a massive compliment. But then I started to... But, Robin, who works with Royksop every now and again, her singing over the top of it, I could imagine that as well. So I think you were on the money when you were searching for...
Yeah, well, if anyone listening has got a vocal they want to put over the top of it and remix it with a vocal in, then you're very welcome. I think it could do with a vocal. I think it should be a pop song with a vocal in it.
Yeah.
It's a superb piece of music. And then I wrote down as well, 2 minutes 50. And please do take this as a massive compliment. It turns very Jean-Michel Jarre.
Oh, good.
There is a sudden change, and it just all goes very kind of, I don't know if orchestral is the right word, but everything thickens up beautifully. It's just... Yeah. And I was only listening on headphones, and I was kind of, as that piece came in, I was thinking, God, I wish I had massive speakers in this room that I could hear that piece coming out across those big speakers, because that's going to sound awesome.
And I do like the scenes and the movements in it. It's got sort of quite a few. It moves through quite a few different areas, doesn't it? It's got. I think on Ableton, that you call them scenes, don't you? But you can sort of come through these sort of, it takes you through a journey through different.
I kind of recorded it live into those bits live into Ableton. It was things. I mean, literally, I think it's the 6th song I've done properly, and I knew that I hadn't done much in the way of variety and arrangement, so I'd really made an effort to try and
you can tell it does elevate it. I think. Yeah. Cool.
But it's all hard. It's all when you first time you do things. I'm hoping you guys are going to tell me it gets easier the more you do, because it's hard. Doing that arrangement thing's tough and trying to work.
Are you honestly saying that's only the 6th song you've ever done? Surely you're not saying that.
Yeah, I counted them up.
That's ridiculous. Honestly, that really is, because I must have made about 80 songs of mine, and I'm not just saying this. Mine are rubbish compared to yours. That's just fantastic.
It's great.
That is a superb piece of music. It really is. It's amazing.
It is. I can do 6 on a Sunday morning before the family have got off.
No, you're prolific, I know. I think part of mine is that once I've got something going, because I'm not that familiar with all my bits of gear, I'm scared to move away from it until I've finished it, in case I can't get it back. So I spend ages. I tend to do one and spend ages on that, and then move on to the next one.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing piece of music. And Andy, are we going to go straight into Gear Geek Corner now?
No, we're going to play the tune.
Well,
now.
let's do that. Let's tell you what. Let's have a listen. Let's everybody else just enjoy this moment. This is I've just. I'll let you decide for yourselves. I've written down Viscount Mint. This is Jitterbug panelling.
Only Human Radio.
panelling, Jitterbug. Wow, how good was that? Am I right on the Viscount Mint?
Yeah.
You probably want to know.
Because you have to unwrap it, don't you?
You do.
To find out what's inside.
You do.
And
it's also not an everyday biscuit. It's a biscuit that's a treat. And when you have it, you know you're having something special. That's the way I thought about that. You've spent a little bit of time with that.
It's a bit of a granny biscuit as well, though. It might be something your gran has.
You what?
It's a bit of a granny biscuit.
I have never been so offended.
It's something when you go and visit your gran on a Sunday, she might have.
No.
Yeah.
The Viscount biscuits are the ones I hide from my children and I keep for myself for a Sunday morning in the sunshine on the veranda with a cup of tea.
For when Granny comes round.
Yes. Well, Andy too. Don't take any offence by Andy 1's comments. I didn't think it was a granny song at all. That was not my intention with the Viscount biscuits.
You've switched that very nicely. Well done.
Andy was going with the Viscount Orange. I'm going with the Viscount Mint. That's the difference.
I think it's difficult to offend anyone with a biscuit.
Yeah.
Well,
to be fair.
I think so.
There's still time. Let's see what happens, eh? But anyway, that was amazing. And now it's, as always, Andy, we've unfortunately we had that BAFTA taken away from us. Apparently, the voting, there was some flaws in the voting, like there has been in the American election. And the BAFTA got taken away with us I'm getting a little bit emotional. Get a bit emotional about this, but the BAFTA did get taken away from us for that jingle. So you've had to walk back to Chester Station, get a train down to London to actually hand back the award, haven't you?
I did. It took me all day, and I'm still waiting for my expenses from you.
Anyway, let's get the jingle out quickly.
Andy's Gear Geek Corner.
What does that knob do? Oh. And there it is. We'll talk about the expenses another time, Andy. Right, okay. So anyway, so it is Andy's Gear Geek Corner. Let's just crack in.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to confess, this is an area of music making and music production that I know very little about. So, Andy, what is the Novation Remote SL Mark III?
Okay, so it doesn't make any sounds, controversially. It's a control keyboard, control surface, and it's got an 8-track sequencer on it, in simple terms.
Okay.
It's got lots of flashing nice LEDs on it as well. Very nice.
If I were to buy one,
yeah,
what would my sound sources be? What is the best what would I plug it into?
Anything basically. So I bought it as an 8-track, so it can plug into all the bits of kit that I've got. It'll do MIDI, it'll do CV, it'll do USB. It's got USB output as well, so it's got decent connectivity.
Right.
So when you say it's got 8-track, and forgive my idiocy, so does that mean you can sequence 8 separate pieces of gear with that then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. With each of those 8 separate pieces of gear, so if you're sequencing, for example, the Tetra, which is a 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer, does that mean one track will take over the Tetra, or do you need to use 4 tracks on the sequencer?
No, I can do one track to take over the Tetra, but only on one voice. I don't know enough about setting up the Tetra, if I'm honest, about how I could set it up. There are different modes of that you could have it doing 2 sounds.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a pattern-based sequencer. So similar, I guess, to the thing you use, the Akai Force, yeah?
Yeah.
That's kind of a pattern-based sequencer, yeah? So it's a pattern-based sequencer, and it's got 8 tracks. Each track can have a pattern on it. Each pattern can be 16 steps, which in turn can have 6 micro steps, which I think gives you sort of 96 steps within that. You can run them at each different pattern on different tracks at different speeds and have them as different lengths, so you can do sort of syncopated stuff, and I don't do any of that. But you can have, if you've got like a long sort of pad type part, you can run that a lot slower, so that means that each of your 16 steps are covering 4 bars. And then if you've got an intricate piece, you could have your 16 steps just covering half a bar, so it gives you quite a lot of variety and stuff that you can do there. And it's kind of it's like and it works off little pads, so it's like your your Akai, in that you trigger them from the pads, and you can trigger loops and so forth there. So that's how the sequencer kind of works.
So, I'm sorry, Andy, I'm taking over your Geek Corner, but it's just because I'm genuinely interested. And Andy just stuffed a biscuit in his mouth, and we'll have to find out what that is in a second. But so, is it an arpeggiator on there or anything like that? Then?
Oh, the arpeggiator is ace. So yeah,
Right.
it has got an arpeggiator. It's got an arpeggiator. To be honest, that was one thing when I got it, because I've never had an arpeggiator or anything before. So I spent ages just playing with the arpeggiator. Just, that sounds great. Literally, days were lost. But doing nothing that could be ever used either. That's the thing with that.
So on the arpeggiator then,
Yeah.
is that a again? Could you describe a little bit about how that works? So is that
Okay, so with the arpeggiator, you can set it to there's various arpeggiator modes, sort of up and down, and how many octaves you go up and down, or whether it's random, and the different patterns you can have on arpeggiator. And then across the steps on it, you can set the length of the arpeggiated loop, and you can turn on and off steps in it as well. So you can set a rhythm to it, and it's really simple, just to sort of go right. Play the first, second, miss the third beat, play the fourth, fifth, sixth, and so you can make quite an interesting sort of pattern. I liked on that track of mine there. I used the arpeggiator, I think, on one bit where there was some random probability applied, so that it just it gives quite a random sound.
I love that. I love random stuff.
Oh, you finished your biscuit, Andy? Have you?
Sorry, it was a chocolate.
Oh, was it? Oh,
it was a toffee as well, so it's taken me about 3 minutes to eat it.
Well, as long as you're satisfied, right? I'll sit back in my chair now and let you continue your interview.
I was just listening to that whilst chewing on a toffee, and I was thinking, can you control any other values, any of the CC values?
Yeah,
at
I mean,
all
again,
with
that for me was a big part of it. I had an old Novation that I used before, and it's really easy to program them to control the synths. So I was talking about the pad sound I got on the What's It. So I've actually set up 8 templates on it that I have to load up all at once. So it's like they're taking the whole thing, but it allows me hands-on control of pretty much every parameter on the Tetra.
Right. Okay.
So literally, you've got everything, because you've got a bank of knobs, two banks of knobs. Sorry, that'll go there.
Like
You've got
show,
screen.
really.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
You got indeed.
There's one knob bigger than the rest.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I've sabotaged you.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. You got bank of knobs, 16 buttons, sliders you've got as well, so you can set all them to control different things. And then nice Novation style, you've got little screens that tell you what they're doing when you're in different views of it and stuff as well, which I always forget, and that's
so
really helpful.
So things like modulation, LFOs, things like that.
All of that. There's a fairly easy to use online bit of kit that you use to just program your templates in. So you basically create a template for an instrument. So if you're plugging it up to my Tetra, for example, I create a template for that, and I just select that to be on this track, and then everything's in place. The other thing that gives you is really neat automation. So it's really simple to automate. So when you're recording, if you move a knob, it records the automation. So you can automate synths and things that wouldn't normally be able to be automated. It's really hands-on and neat. It's good.
Is it?
So can you
Sorry,
also, and I know it's fantastic for arpeggios and sequencing, but can you do sort of beat grids with it as well?
You can do beats with it, but I don't think it's very. I think I've written down some cons of it, and I think the one con, I don't think it's great for beats. You can do it, but you end up having to play the beats as notes on the keyboard,
right?
Which I don't like, because I get confused and forget where they are. So when I'm doing, I still use, but then I kind of bought that, 'cause I still use the Novation model samples for my beats anyway, and the sequencer on that's great. So I have a template that triggers the model samples and allows me. I've set, for example, the one frustration I have with the model samples is that you've got it's very awkward to mute an individual track. You've kind of got to do a shift and then a button to mute stuff.
Yeah.
So I set a single click on one of my buttons on there to mute each track, so I can control the muting on the tracks remotely and set it to sync and play from it, but the sequencer runs off that one. So that just syncs to it.
So in a way, the sort of frustrations that you have with the Electron, kind of you can use the Novation to iron some of that out by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
right?
Exactly, yeah. And like I say, it's turned my Tetra into it's like having a full keyboard with all the controls Tetra, it's like having all those sounds but with full control over it, which is grand.
Right, okay.
Have
you tried it?
Go on.
Sorry.
I was going to say the only other con I've got on it, the difference is that you can only, if you think of a grid like your Akai Force again that you showed the other week, Jules, you've got like 64 buttons. You've got a grid of 64 buttons, and presumably you can use them to trigger. You can trigger any of your different parts that are going through them.
Yeah.
I've only got the sort of 16 on this, so you have to sort of scroll through for doing the triggering,
Right.
which is a bit of a pain. So I'm not sure how great that was going to be live. I've never really done a live workflow on things, but that's a bit awkward. But I've got an answer for that. If Novation are listening, and I'm sure they are, because I'll have tipped them off that I'm on talking about this, then they've got another bit of kit. They've got their little simple grid controller launch pad for which is quite cheap. If you could get a launch pad and plug that into it and use that to trigger the parts, that would be fantastic.
That's a great idea.
So, yeah.
And the one advantage you've got over an Akai Force is that it doesn't crash constantly as well. Or you load something up and it just freezes, and it is a very terrible.
Well, you've got a lot more
machine.
going on in that, though, because you're actually generating sounds, aren't you? Whereas this doesn't generate any sounds. It is just, it's like an old sequencer. You know, it's a sequencer with a keyboard attached, really.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. But it is. I mean, I've not actually seen one, but what you've described sounds amazing. And I know my wife has bought me a Christmas present, and I know what it is because I've peeked in the box. If I say it very quietly, she won't hear. It's a Behringer TD3. I'm very excited about the whole situation.
Oh, nice.
I know. And I'm just, because I've been trying to work out how I'm going to sequence that from the Akai, and what you've described there is going to sequence that beautifully.
Oh,
so what amazing. I need is the Novation. That sounds like what I need.
It's honestly, the LEDs on it are fab. Each key has its own LED, so which is useful. It's not just there for flashness, because it tells you when you're being the sequence, it lights up the keys that are being played in the sequence, so you can see and turn on and off notes and things. But it also looks really cool. It's very Jean-Michel Jarre.
Well, as was your song. So that segues beautifully into that.
Yeah, there you go.
Andy, have you got any more delving questions?
Well, I was just going to say, have you tried it out on any soft synths? Have you got it going into
I haven't.
anything?
Good question.
Apparently, it has got really good integration with Ableton Live, but what do I care?
Yeah, okay.
Quite right.
But apparently, it's one of those. It's got a button on it basically, which it turns it into an Ableton Live controller, and it's really closely integrated to that.
Right. Okay, but that's an adventure for another day, perhaps.
Yeah, so you can control the soft. I got as far as like playing the piano part in that last piece using the keyboard. Right, I think I set the piano to when it was on the model samples template, because I don't use the keyboard on the model samples, so I just set the piano to point at Ableton, and that worked. So you can have it. That's the other thing. You can have the same part going to different things. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So the same sort of the same data can trigger different instruments.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Glad you explained that, Andy. I was lost there for a second. But that does sound like a fascinating piece of equipment, though. An amazing piece of equipment. Thank you very much for that, Andy. Thank you very much for your incisive interview as always, and Andy too. Thank you very much for describing that for us. And I think there's going to be a few people out there googling and seeing where we can buy that very quickly in time for Christmas. And you never know, there might be some discounts out there as we are now in lockdown. It's unlikely, but anyway, there we go. So thank you very much for another great Andy's Gear Geek Corner. We've got another amazing tune rumbling up here from, now, am I pronouncing this correct here? Is it Mini Mums?
It is minimums.
Minimums.
As in the opposite to maximums.
As in small mothers. As in,
no.
Can you lift me up? No. No. I can't reach the parcel. Can you lift me up? Is that on it? No.
Dads can also use Purcell.
Oh, clearly. Absolutely. Exactly. Can you lift? I can't reach the hammer. Does that mean any better?
No.
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 Do I just annoy you, or do I annoy the listeners as well?
I think it's just me.
Is it? I'm not sure. I think it might be a combination of the two. So we do have minimums. Can you lift me up? This is a great song. So should we probably talk about this song a little bit, really, rather than be talking rubbish? It is a great song, though, isn't it? How did you find it, Andy?
It's come from absolutely nowhere. This.
Has it?
Absolutely nowhere. He's a fella called Minimums, but he's a man of mystery.
Is he?
Or person of mystery. I've given half of it away. Minimums is an established musician in the Chester area, and uses the Minimums moniker to gently, carefully move into making some electronic music. Do you remember Rachel from episode 7? She put him in touch with us as a community. He is a member of the community, and this is one of a couple of tunes that he fired over. Like Martin Eve and Fourth Eden, I could have picked any of them, and it would have been brilliant. I think just on the day, this is the one I liked.
Andy D, how did you find this?
I love this. I think if I'm allowed a favourite, this is my favourite. I absolutely love this. It's called The Solitary Journey Through Empty Streets, I think. And it kind of does what it says on the can for me. I think that's what it invokes.
Yeah.
It's I've occasionally liked to wander around dodgy bits of London at night, and I'd love to do this with that on the headphones, you know. And
now you can.
Yeah, I'm even thinking about it, when I'm listening to it, sends an involuntary shiver down my spine. Just invokes all sorts of stuff. It's wonderful. I absolutely love it. It's kind of a tune for lockdown. It works. It's a lockdown tune for me. It's amazing.
Yeah. We would before we started the show, we were chatting, weren't we? And we were saying this is quite obviously been made by someone who knows the way round composition and structure and. I mean, there's some orchestration in there. It's very, very accomplished and very nicely put together.
That makes me feel bad about trying to put my attempts at comedy around this as well, really, because it is such a beautiful song. I don't want to sully it with my ridiculous. But I did write down, and this isn't. But genuinely, this is what I felt going through the song. I did write down, so it feels like it's a quiet morning on a Russian street, and it's snowy. And you're walking down that Russian street, and there's a beautiful lady in a red jacket walking towards you on that snowy street.
Why is there always a beautiful lady?
Well, Dad, lady only sometimes.
Red.
And she is a lady, and she walked, not that one, and then she walks towards you, and turns out she's from Florida. Or is she? That's but exactly, you see. Or is she just putting on the accent? We don't know. And that's what it felt like. And that's why I wrote down Garibaldi biscuit, because around the outside it was like a cold exterior at first, quite austere. And then when I got into the inside of it, there was a sudden sweetness that came out of there, but there was a little bitter aftertaste. And that was where, is she from Florida? I don't know, Andy. I don't know.
One thing I'd put about it actually is that it's like a film score, but without needing the film. It doesn't need the film. It tells you everything it needs to tell you. It's there, you know. You don't need anything else. It gives all the right. And it's kind of where you've come from, and where I come from, a similar place. I didn't have the lady in red in mind. I was just walking through Soho or something like. But yeah, it's.
But it does emote.
It takes you on a journey.
It does take. Absolutely, it does emote a vision in your mind of something that's happening. Mine might be slightly more unusual than most people's, but it does emote a vision in your mind of what's going on within the song, and that's an unusual thing to happen. That shows the depth of the song, that it's actually creating something cinematic in your own mind.
Too short though. I want to hear the 12-inch mix. It could go on for 20 minutes as far as I'm concerned. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it could quite easily. I agree.
Should we have a listen?
Yeah.
Just think Garibaldi as you're going through it. This is
Garibaldi.
This is Minimum's A Solitary Journey Through Empty Streets. It's wonderful. So that was Minimum's Solitary Journey Through Empty Streets. We were just talking about it then and just saying that really if I stopped spouting rubbish all the time and actually talk normal stuff, that was a beautiful journey. Really was. And it actually didn't need the title of the song to describe it. What it did was lead us itself down that journey that both Andy D and I both had the same feeling, that it was like a cinematic experience. You had a vision of something which was actually happening in there. And it's very difficult to create something like that in a song.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. So we're moving on from that to something very, very different indeed. Andy, do you want to just walk us through this a little bit? Because this really is quite an unusual piece.
Yeah, Tim Lewin, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Tim is another member, quite a new member of the Only Human Facebook group. And he first started posting maybe 8 weeks ago, a very long project where he's producing chip tunes. And he's been putting them up there. He's been getting some sort of, a few reactions. But then the other day he started to post. He posted this, which is a tune that is completely comprised of Windows 7 sounds. Whether he's bought a sample pack or created the sounds himself, I've no idea. But this is a very, very unusual piece of music, in as much as the tune is very nursery rhymey, but created on with Windows 7.
It's
What can I say?
I know it is extraordinary. Andy D, how did you find this?
Yeah, I really liked it. I had to listen to it. First time I listened to it, I was just trying to work out what the sounds were and where they'd come, what bit they'd come from. So I've had to. But then when I listen to it again, you realise what a good tune it is. I think it's a really nice pop tune. It's just a nice. It's very happy. It's a pop tune. So it's got a bit of a video game feel to it potentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of chirpiness of a video game Zelda era kind of thing. That kind of video game stuff, which is great. I mean that's fantastic. What else have I written down? I liked the other stuff he'd done on there, because I think he'd done some stuff that was coming off of Commodore 64 samples as well, and I was a big Commodore 64 fan, so that was good. And he did some stuff the other day, which was him playing gin bottles filled with water at different levels, which was great. Honestly, look that up. That's on the Only Human page. That's fantastic. It's really cool. It looks really good.
And he's also done a PlayStation one as well. PlayStation 1. The startup sort of, I can't sing it. It's sort of. Did you own a PlayStation? The startup sort of mysterious kind of. He's created something out of that as well. So
I like the idea. I like to sort of imagine that he just sits himself there and thinks, "What's my challenge for today? What am I going to use today?" And I'll make something creative out of that. It's good. I think it's a positive thing. You've said it before, and here I think it's a positive thing to restrict yourself to certain things and go, "I'm going to make that work," and then make it happen. And he succeeds here. It's grand.
It's the old sort of mother of invention, isn't it? Necessity is the mother of invention. If you give yourself a sort of a target of, it reminds me of Rob's Modulate, the 2-box challenge. Everybody got so creative with the 2 boxes, and it's the same kind of idea of limiting yourself, isn't it?
Exactly. When you're so restricted, you have no choice but to be creative. You literally have no choice. Yeah. And that's sometimes, I'm as guilty as anybody for this. I buy loads of pieces. I've stopped it now, but I used to buy loads of pieces of kit, end up with a big desk full of stuff, and then make something terrible. I mean, why does that sound terrible? It's because I'm trying to make sure I've included every single piece of kit I've invested in, so I feel good about the fact that I'm actually using everything.
Yeah, that costs £600. I better use it.
Exactly, absolutely, exactly that. So I've got to put that in the song. Whereas if you just restrict yourself down and say, well, actually, I'm just going to use that, or I've only got this small set of equipment that I can actually use, the chances are you are going to be more creative out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Should we have a listen?
Yeah. Stick it on.
Why not? This is Tim Lewin. This is I think it's just called Windows 7. I'm just going to leave in there Ginger Nut.
Only Human Radio.
Windows 7. I thought my computer crashed there for a second, but it was just part of the tune. That was Tim Lewin. That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. What an astonishing piece of music out of just, I don't know.
Yeah.
When was Windows 7 out?
I looked that up. I think it was about 2005, I think.
Was it?
2009.
Really?
Sorry, I did look it up and now I've forgotten. I didn't write it down. Noughties.
So it's over 10 years old then?
Yeah. I think it's 2009.
Right, okay.
Andy,
It's
one, you
kind
used
of
to have
old,
Windows
but
ME
not.
on yours. Yeah. Was that one you're trying to edit these shows together? Has it got Windows ME on it, is it?
I've been using Windows... I've been using Windows XP to edit these shows.
Oh, have you? Oh, in that case, I take that back. I'm sorry.
Very stable system, Windows XP.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
Until it died about 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Well, that's why I thought it was on Windows ME. Anyway,
No,
but we'll leave that
XP.
there. That should be in
Yeah,
Geek
yeah.
Corner. So that was amazing. That was Tim Lewin, Windows 7, which was astonishing, a really astonishing piece of music, quite generally. And that's why I put Ginger Nut down for it, because there was a real crackle and a pop to that. There's it's got that crisp 16-bit. Everything's going on in there. It's cracking.
Slightly
Really, really good.
exotic. The taste of a far. The taste of a far.
That's a little bit of Jamaica in there. You're quite right with the ginger in there.
Yeah.
Quite right, Andy. I
Yeah.
hadn't even thought about that. Right, next on we've got this is a really sincerely very, very good piece of music. So this is Rayspark Industries with Shuffle, and this is your master. Well, this is your master blaster. We haven't won an award for this one yet, Andy. There is a chance we might get that award back with this one. Here it is. Andy's master blaster.
Time for tea.
Mum, I'm doing a jingle.
Ace. Rayspark Industries. I've mentioned before that I read a lot of music press, and there's a magazine I subscribe to called, I can't remember what it's called, Electronic Music, Electronic Sounds, Electronic Music. You get a free 7-inch single with it every month.
Nice.
Yeah, it is, and it's based on electronic music, obviously.
Yeah.
God. How descriptive of me. Yes, I first read about Rayspark Industries in this electronic music magazine I get every month. Yeah, and they do a lot of reviews, but it stuck out for me because it said Cheshire based. And I was like, oh, right, okay. I don't claim to know everybody who's making music in Cheshire, obviously, but if somebody quite local to me was making it into this magazine, it sort of perked me interest. So tracked him down, and it's a guy called Paul Darlington. He started to really realise that how much I really liked his music and thought he'd be brilliant for Master Blaster. Only turns out, when I approached him to play some of his tunes, it only turns out he's mates with Ross Alexander.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had a bit of a chat with him on Messenger. And he said, oh yeah, me and Ross, we used to jam in Frodsham. So,
No way.
small world. So, friend of the show, Ross Alexander, is also mates with Paul Darlington, a.k.a. Rayspark Industries. But this is a great tune. He asked, he kind of guided me towards his new ambient collection, which is available on Bandcamp. But this is the one I chose. It's called Shuffle, yeah.
How did you find it, Andy D?
I really like this. It kind of continued the journey I started with Minimums, but took me out of the dark underworld of the city into. I found it very organic. It took me to beaches and forests and waterfalls, and it just felt organic. It felt nice and sunny, and it took me out of that dark place into a nice, happy place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I got from that? I got a beer buzz. So like sometimes when it's a sunny day and exactly that, you're on a beach or just somewhere and you have a couple of beers when you shouldn't. So it's a bit early. You really shouldn't have had them. You shouldn't have had them, and you get that beer buzz. And you think, well, I shouldn't have had that beer buzz at 11:30 in the morning or whatever it is. That's what I got from that. It was that naughtiness, but it was just so nice, and that warmth that you get. It's the sunshine. You shouldn't do it, but Christ, this feels so good.
Yeah. I think I'm coming with you on that one for once. So I think I'm there. I'm walking side by side with you on that one.
I haven't got my biscuit out yet. Yeah, so don't worry about it.
It put me in mind of, and this is a bizarre one, but it put me in mind of the Kate Bush album Ariel, The Sky of Honey, which I listened to that album after it put me in mind of that, and it sounds nothing like it, but it just sounded like it could have been there. She did it on the Before the Dawn thing that she did, that live thing she did, and that was a very organic, foresty kind of piece, and it's just took me to the same kind of place that did. Yeah.
And there's a fair bit of chip tune to this again.
There is there's a few bleeps in there that are reminiscent of that. Yeah. I thought that.
Yeah, there is.
But I think he did send us a gear list. I've been a little bit lazy and I didn't write them down, but I made enough notes to remember that it's a mixture of hardware and software. So I think it's Cubase VSTs, and I think there was a Roland Alpha Juno 2 is one of the instruments I wrote down. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming that's a bit of hardware. You know how good I am with gear.
I haven't got a clue either what it is, to be honest with you, Andy. It sounds great though, doesn't it? I want one of those for Christmas too.
Yeah. I just also want to mention that Paul also runs quite a successful blog called Synth Spotting. So check it out. If you're into your synths, basically what they do is they take famous synth tunes and find out what gear is on there. So they're creating quite a good kind of library of what did Depeche Mode use on New Life, what did Jean-Michel Jarre use on Oxygen 4 and things like that.
It's just going to make you want to buy things, isn't it?
Yeah. So Paul Darlington's behind Synth Spotting as well, and I recommend that. I've not really spent a lot of time with it, but it does look good. So have a wander through that, folks.
Well, I tell you what, should we have a listen? This is, I'll just stick this in there as well. Pillsbury Grand Southern Style. You might need to look that one up. This is Rayspark Industries. Shuffle. Wow, I was on that beach. I don't know about you. Rayspark Industries Shuffle. That was fantastic. Do you want to join me on a beach somewhere, boys?
Yeah, love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all allowed to go places after all, aren't we? It'd be fun.
Well, exactly. Because we nearly went somewhere the other week, didn't we? And we nearly had our flamingos out and everything. Where was it, Andy? Where were we going? Was it?
We were going to go to India to see sand dunes.
Ah, that's it.
To see if she would give us permission to play her song.
She'd be delighted. Yeah. Well, yeah, she didn't previously get. We won't mention that, Andy. We won't mention. But I know exactly what would happen. You see, we get on the plane, and then we get there. Then I'd be sat in California, and think, boys, where are you? And we sat there, and then you'd be in India having a great time with sand dunes, and you'd have sent me on a different plane. And I'd be sat there and eating American biscuits, and just
crying on Bondi Beach. Exactly. No, that's Australia, isn't it?
That is Australia.
Exactly, just cuddling me inflatable flamingo. I know exactly what you
Venice Beach.
It's too late now, Andy. It's too late now. You've said it.
I've been geographically shamed.
Yeah, that's it. At least you haven't sworn this week, so that's something.
Yeah, I've just looked thick instead.
Well, that was an extraordinary tune. It's very sad, Andy. We've got our last tune of the night on.
We have. But don't feel sad.
Well, I am a little bit sad. It's been a very enjoyable evening. It's like Christmas Day when it gets to about 10 o'clock at night, and you know you've only got 2 hours left of Christmas. And the Christmas is coming up, Andy. It'll be here.
Well, I'm going to have to tell you something. I prefer Boxing Day.
Do you?
I'm a Boxing... Oh, yeah.
Really?
Give me Boxing Day over Christmas Day any day of the week.
Really?
Yeah.
Go on, give me one good reason why.
Because it's stress-free. It's lovely. And you've all chilled out and you've just got loads of bloody tasty cold food to eat and you can laze around. And
I imagine you cook, Andy. Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
I've cooked. It's horrible, isn't it, having to cook? It's not horrible. It's lovely. It's a lovely thing to do, but it is stressful and hard and exhausting.
It is. Yeah. Especially the wrong side of a bottle of champagne that you drank at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah. That was exactly going to be my point. That's the trouble with Boxing Day. You can't drink prosecco at 8 o'clock in the morning.
You don't really want to on Boxing Day, though, do you? By the time you've hit Boxing Day, not anymore, anyway.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Is it worth mentioning, Andy, that we do have a very, very special episode coming up around Christmas time?
Yeah, we are planning something special for Christmas. We could call it a Christmas special.
That's because it is a Christmas special.
It's never been done before.
It's going to be...
No.
It's going to be like Steve Wright in the afternoon. It's...
Yeah, I think Gary Davis.
I think it is going to be more Steve Wright in the afternoon than Morecambe and Wise, to be quite frank. But it will be a Christmas special, and it will be a special episode. We
are putting all of our brain cells together.
We are.
Our considerable cranial capacity into this.
You can imagine what output that's going to produce.
I'll say nothing.
Extraordinary is going to be what that is. It's going to be the features we're going to have in that show. Just wait until you hear about the food we're talking about. It's going to be off the scale. Anyway, we probably ought to talk about the final song. You've livened me up, Andy. You've brought me out of my dark mood because it was the last song. So thank you for that. In that case, I'll pass over to let you talk about this one with Andy D.
This is Siân Peters, and it's called Song 2. Siân is a relatively new member of Only Human, posted a few things. She posted a 14-minute version, 12, 13, 14-minute version of this tune, Song 2, and I really wanted to play it, but it was a little bit too long. So what she's done is she's very, very kindly edited it for us to a more manageable sort of just under 7 minutes. So it's still a journey, but like I say, I asked her if we could have it, and she said, "Yeah, I'll edit it for you." So here it is. I mean, you've heard it, haven't you, Andy?
I love it. It's great. If I hadn't been for the other one, this would be my favourite. But this is fab. It's big. It's large. You want to hear it in a club, really. I'd like to hear it on club speakers and hear it really pounding. It again takes me back to the 90s. A lot of things do, but going to Mega Dogs and stuff in the 90s and that sort of vibe and really big. But there's like two parts to it as well. It's like there's two different souls of it trying to get out. They're fighting and different parts come through at different times. It's a quite complex and varied as well. There's two different sides to it. Yeah,
because I mean, I was trying to describe it, and we've had Harry Walker on the show a number of times, and he's taken our breath away with some of the tunes he's provided us with. But this sort of has the sort of drum techno brutality of a Harry Walker tune, but floating above it, there's some rather pretty and a lovely melody as well, which...
There's a bit of vocodery stuff comes in at one point as well, I think, isn't there? There's some vocodery kind of stuff in there, which is grand. Yeah, that was sort of unexpected and it's nice. There's a little riff in there which is a bit dread zone-y, I thought. There's a bit sort of a chirpy dread zone-y kind of riff, which is a great thing as well.
Yeah.
Like I say, it just takes back that time. It's good. It's really good.
It's sort of like singing you a lullaby while kicking you in the teeth at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was gently pumping my arms to the one at the start, I'll absolutely belt in the air for this one.
Yeah. It's another one of our classic. Let's leave the long banger till the very end of the show, and that's what we've done again. I think this is a cracker.
I've got a very big question to ask Andy D. If you had to put a biscuit all around this, what would you put?
It's got to be a bourbon.
Christ, I can't beat that. That can't be topped.
Bourbon. Yeah,
that cannot be topped.
King of biscuits, isn't it?
It is the king of biscuits. You get everything in that.
Yeah,
in the
rich
bourbon.
tea finger.
Yeah.
You can keep your rich tea finger to yourself, Andy.
They're only 33 pence in Tesco's.
Well, there's a very good reason for that, because nobody likes them.
Right.
Should we have a listen to our bourbon song of the night? It's this is Sean Peters. This is song 2.
Human Radio.
Sean Peters, song 2. That was massive. That was properly massive. That really was a song.
I need to dig out the long version of it.
I would love to hear that.
I think if you go onto her SoundCloud page, I think the full verse is up there.
Someone should post a link under this. Chat.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That would be the professional thing to do.
But we'll try and do that. We'll have a go. However, you're not dealing with professionals here.
No.
So that was an amazing evening of entertainment, music, biscuits, everything. It was phenomenal. Andy D, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
It's been thoroughly enjoyable, and it's been great to listen about your gear. It's been great to listen to your song, and it's just been great to chat to you in general.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
And again,
another classic.
It is another classic, Andy, and creeping closer to Christmas, to our Christmas special. Everybody's very excited about this. It's well, I say everybody, me and you. It's
I don't want to spoil it too much, but the theme that we've talked about, I'm really, really excited about. Probably a bit too excited, really.
It could be great. It could not be. We'll see. We'll see. No, it will be great. It will be great. Of course it will. Of course it will. Right, come on, let's run down. Let's see what we've had tonight. Come on, Andy.
Anyway, at number 1, we've got CitizenFLY, your good self, and Fez. Finally managed to get it into the show without you wriggling out of it.
Yeah.
Then we had Edgey, The Dark.
Which was a great song.
Yeah, off a forthcoming cassette release.
Which everybody's talking about. Well, actually, no, you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the only one who's talking about it. Then we had Andy, Jitterbug Boy, paneling. We didn't talk about the title, but great title, love it.
It was, and I've just got to say as well that if you had your songs of the night, Andy, and that was genuinely, I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, but that was my song of the night, and it because we only use this word once a week, Andy, don't we? Soundscape, and I'd written Soundscape down for that one, and that was my Soundscape one. It was just beautiful. It just flowed and flowed and flowed. It was wonderful.
I concur. Lovely, beautiful. Then we had Andy doing Gear Geek, the Novation Remote SL Mark III. Then we had the mystery musician Minimums doing a solitary journey through empty streets. I couldn't read my own writing then. Then Tim Lewin, Windows 7. Master Blaster Rayspark Industries, Shuffle Submix. And then we ended up with that absolute monster, Sean Peters, Song 2, Only Human Edit.
Yeah, an astonishing set of music, genuinely an astonishing set of music. And again, we do appreciate everybody putting in their songs. It's genuinely appreciated because we know how much time and effort goes into doing these. We do it ourselves. Well, Andy produces 6 on a Saturday morning. He's just easy like this stuff, but it takes me weeks and weeks. And Andy Darrant was saying before that, he's produced 8 full songs. And when you listen to the quality of stuff he's done, you can hear how much time and effort goes into producing this stuff. So we do genuinely appreciate. And if you want to have your song on the show, we would love to have your song on the show. If somebody wanted their song on the show, Andy, how would they submit it?
All you have to do is email it to onlyhumanradio@gmail.com.
What was that email address again, Andy?
onlyhumanradio@gmail.com.
That's the one. Well, yes, indeed. So please do send in your tunes. We would love to play them. We would love to hear from you. If you've got any comments about the show, if you want to tell everybody that I'm annoying, I don't mind. I really don't mind. It's fine. Let's just do that. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in again tonight. We hope to see you again next time. Andy Darrant, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Andy, do you want to do the big goodbyes?
Goodbye.
9.5. Andy D?
Ta-ra a bit.
There we go. That's a 10. That's a 10. That's a 10. Cheerio all. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
We are
Only Human Radio.